The silence of space was broken by a faint hum, growing louder with each passing second. A small alien scout ship drifted cautiously through the darkness, its crew tense and alert. The aliens aboard had ventured far beyond their home system, driven by curiosity and a need to explore the unknown. They were not warriors, but explorers, their fragile forms protected only by the thin walls of their vessel. Their large black eyes scanned the void, searching for anything unusual. Suddenly, one of the crew members pointed toward the viewport. At first, it was just a speck in the distance, barely noticeable against the endless expanse of stars. But as they moved closer, the shape began to grow larger, much larger. It wasn't long before the full enormity of what they were seeing became clear. What loomed ahead was no ordinary object. It was a battleship, unlike anything they had ever encountered. Its sleek metallic surface glinted faintly under the light of a distant star, and its sheer size made their own ship seem like a grain of sand next to a mountain. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. None of them spoke aloud, but their thoughts were loud enough. Who could have built such a thing? Was it even possible? Their species prided itself on being advanced, but this was something else entirely. The design of the battleship was both beautiful and terrifying. Rows of glowing panels lined it tall, pulsing with an eerie blue light that seemed alive. Strange symbols etched into the metal hinted at a language they couldn't understand. And then there were the weapons, massive cannons jutting out from every side, ready to unleash destruction at a moment's notice. One of the aliens pressed closer to the viewport, his wide eyes reflecting the image of the looming giant. His heart raced, though his face remained calm. He had never felt fear like this before. This wasn't just a machine, it was a statement. Whoever had created it wanted others to know they were powerful. Very powerful. As if sensing their presence, the battleship shifted slightly, its massive engines flaring to life. The sudden movement sent a wave of panic through the scout ship. The aliens scrambled to activate their communication devices, hoping to send a message back to their leaders. But before they could do anything, something emerged from the battleship's belly. A squadron of smaller ships, sleek and fast, heading straight toward them. "They're coming," whispered one of the aliens, his voice trembling. The others froze, unsure of what to do next. Should they try to flee, or should they stay and attempt to communicate? Time seemed to slow down as the human fighter jets approached, their thrusters leaving trails of fire behind them. For the first time in their lives, the aliens felt truly small and insignificant. This was no ordinary encounter. This was the beginning of something far greater and potentially far more dangerous. Back on the battleship, a human officer stood silently in the command center, watching the scene unfold on a large screen. She crossed her arms and smirked. "Let's see how they react," she said softly, her tone carrying a mix of confidence and curiosity. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The alien scout ship hovered in place, its engines humming softly as the crew inside debated their next move. The human fighter jets were closing in fast, their sleek forms cutting through the void like blades. Each movement of the jets was precise, controlled, and intimidating. The aliens could feel the tension in the air, or rather, the lack of it, since they were floating in the cold vacuum of space. Their hearts pounded as they watched the glowing trails left behind by the approaching ships. One of the aliens, a tall, slender being with translucent skin, reached for the controls. His hands trembled slightly, but he managed to steady them. "We must send a signal," he said, his voice calm despite the fear bubbling inside him. "If we do not communicate now, they may attack." Another crew member, shorter and broader with shimmering scales that reflected the faint starlight, shook her head. "And what if they do not understand us? What if they see our signal as a threat?" Her large, round eyes darted between the viewport and the communication panel. "We know nothing about them. They could be hostile." Before anyone could respond, the lead human fighter jet fired a single warning shot, a bright burst of energy that streaked past the scout ship, leaving a trail of sparks in its wake. The aliens flinched, some instinctively shielding their faces, even though the glass of the viewport protected them. The message was clear: stop moving or face the consequences. Inside the human battleship, Captain Elena Vega observed the scene from her command chair. Her sharp eyes scanned the monitors displaying live footage of the alien vessel. She leaned forward slightly, resting her chin on her hand. "Interesting," she muttered under her breath. "They're scared, but they haven't run yet. That's either bravery or stupidity." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Kane, stood beside her, arms crossed. "Or maybe they're trying to figure out how to fight back," he suggested, his tone cautious. "We don't know what kind of technology they have. For all we know, this little ship could be hiding something dangerous." Elena raised an eyebrow at him. "You always expect the worst, don't you?" she said with a small smirk, but her expression quickly turned serious. "Still, we can't take any chances. Tell the pilots to keep their distance for now. If these aliens want to talk, we'll give them a chance. But if they try anything funny—" She let the sentence hang, her meaning clear. Back on the alien scout ship, the crew had finally decided to act. The one with translucent skin activated the communication device, sending out a series of rhythmic pulses, a universal greeting used by many species across the galaxy. It was simple, peaceful, and non-threatening. The pulses traveled through space, reaching the human ships within seconds. For a moment, there was silence. Then, unexpectedly, the human fighter jets slowed down, forming a loose circle around the alien vessel. One of them transmitted a response, a series of blinking lights in a pattern that mimicked the alien signal. It was crude, almost childlike in its simplicity, but it carried the same intent. Asterisk, we come in peace, asterisk. The aliens exchanged glances, their relief palpable. Perhaps these humans weren't as aggressive as they seemed. Still, caution lingered in their minds. They had no way of knowing whether this gesture was genuine or just a trick to lower their guard. On the battleship, Elena leaned back in her chair, watching the exchange with growing interest. Well, she said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Looks like we got ourselves a first contact situation." She turned to Marcus. "Prepare a shuttle. I want to meet these aliens face to face." Marcus frowned. "Are you sure that's wise, Captain? We don't know what they're capable of." Elena gave him a confident smile. "That's exactly why I'm going. Besides, someone has to make the first move. Might as well be me." As preparations began for the shuttle launch, the alien crew gathered near their own airlock, unsure of what to expect. Fear and curiosity mingled in equal measure as they waited. Whatever happened next would change everything for both species. The shuttle detached from the human battleship with a soft hiss, its engines glowing faintly as it moved toward the alien scout ship. Inside, Captain Elena Vega sat calmly, her hands resting on her knees. She wore a sleek white suit with the emblem of Earth's United Fleet stitched onto the chest. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, and her sharp eyes scanned the controls in front of her. Beside her sat Lieutenant Marcus Kane, gripping the edge of his seat tightly. Unlike Elena, he looked tense, his jaw clenched and his knuckles white. "This is either going to be the most important moment in human history or the biggest mistake we've ever made," Marcus muttered under his breath. Elena glanced at him and smirked. "Relax, Marcus. If things go south, you can always say I forced you into this." Marcus didn't laugh. He just shook his head and stared out the window as the alien ship grew larger. It looked even stranger up close. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, and strange patterns seemed to shift and change as if alive. The shuttle slowed down as it approached the airlock, hovering steadily while the two ships connected. On the alien side, the crew gathered near the airlock door, their wide eyes fixed on the hatch. They whispered among themselves, their voices soft and nervous. None of them had ever seen humans before. All they knew was what they had observed from afar: the battleship, the fighter jets, and now this small shuttle. The tallest alien, with translucent skin and glowing veins, stepped forward. He carried a small device that pulsed faintly with light, a universal translator, though how well it would work remained uncertain. When the airlock doors opened, both sides hesitated for a moment. Then Alina stepped forward, her boots clicking softly against the metal floor. She stopped just inside the alien ship, her posture confident but not aggressive. Behind her, Marcus stayed close, his hand resting near the weapon at his side. The aliens stared at her, their large eyes taking in every detail. To them, she looked strange yet familiar. 2 arms, 2 legs, a face with features they could recognize. But her skin tone, her clothing, and the way she carried herself were unlike anything they had ever seen. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence stretched, heavy and thick. Finally, Alina broke it. She raised one hand slowly, palm open and facing outward. A gesture of peace. "Hello," she said in a calm, clear voice. The word echoed through the small chamber, bouncing off the metallic walls. The alien with translucent skin stepped forward, holding up the translator device. A series of clicks and whistles came from it, followed by a rough approximation of her greeting. "Hell. Oh." Alina smiled slightly. "Close enough." She pointed to herself. "Alina." Then she gestured to Marcus. "Marcus." The alien tilted his head, studying her closely. After a pause, he touched his chest with one long finger. "Kale," he said, his voice low and melodic. "Kale," Alina repeated, nodding. She pointed to the other aliens, waiting for their names. One by one, they introduced themselves. Lyra, Vorn, and Sesk. Their voices varied, some soft and musical, others deeper and more guttural. As the introductions continued, tension began to ease. Lyra, the smallest of the group, cautiously held out a glowing orb. It hovered in the air between them, casting a warm light that illuminated everyone's faces. Alina reached out slowly, letting the orb float closer to her hand. It didn't burn or shock her. Instead, it felt cool and calming. "They're trying to show us they mean no harm," Marcus whispered to Alina. She nodded. "And we need to do the same." She unclipped a small device from her belt, a data tablet, and activated it. Images of Earth appeared on the screen. Blue oceans, green forests, bustling cities. The aliens leaned forward, their eyes widening with fascination. Kale pointed to the screen, his expression curious. "Home?" he asked, using the translator. "Yes," Alina replied. "Our home." For a moment, there was a flicker of understanding between them, a fragile connection forming across the vast gulf of space and culture. But even as they shared this moment, questions lingered in the air. Why were humans so far from their home? And why had these aliens ventured so deep into unknown territory? Neither side had answers yet, but one thing was certain. This meeting was only the beginning. The atmosphere inside the alien scout ship shifted subtly as both humans and aliens began to exchange more than just names and images. The glowing orb floated gently between them, casting a soft light that seemed to ease the tension in the room. Alina gestured toward the data tablet again, this time showing pictures of Earth's technology, skyscrapers, spacecraft, and energy systems. The aliens watched intently, their large eyes reflecting the glow of the screen. Kale pointed to an image of a human city, his finger trembling slightly. "Many. Live?" he asked through the translator, his voice hesitant but curious. Alina nodded. "Yes, many live there. Billions of us." Lyra tilted her head, her shimmering scales catching the light. She made a clicking sound, which the translator struggled to interpret. After a moment, it produced a rough translation. "Why leave?" It was a simple question, but it carried weight. Alina hesitated before answering. How could she explain centuries of exploration, conflict, and ambition in a way these beings would understand? She glanced at Marcus, who gave her a slight nod of encouragement. "We explore because we want to learn," she said slowly, choosing her words carefully. "We seek new worlds, new knowledge. And sometimes," she paused, searching for the right phrase, "we look for others like you." The aliens exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Cal stepped closer, holding up the translator device. "You seek us?" "Yes," Elena replied. "We've always wondered if we're alone in the universe. Now we know we're not." A flicker of emotion passed over Cal's face, something between relief and apprehension. He turned to his crewmates and spoke quickly in their melodic language. Lyra responded with a series of chirps, while Vorn remained silent, his sharp gaze fixed on the humans. After a brief discussion, Cal turned back to Elena. "We also seek. Not fight. Learn." Elena smiled faintly. "Then maybe we can help each other." As the conversation continued, the differences between the two species became clearer, but so did their shared curiosity. The aliens showed the humans images of their own world using a holographic projection. It was a breathtaking sight, a planet covered in vast oceans of liquid crystal, its skies filled with swirling colors. Strange creatures resembling jellyfish drifted lazily through the air, their bodies glowing faintly. "This is your home?" Marcus asked, his tone softer now, almost awestruck. Cal nodded. "Yes. Home." Elena studied the image closely, her mind racing with possibilities. If these aliens came from such a unique environment, what else might they have discovered? What secrets could their civilization hold? But even as excitement bubbled within her, she reminded herself to stay cautious. First contact was delicate, and trust took time to build. Suddenly, Vorn stepped forward, his deep voice rumbling as he spoke into the translator. "Why?" "Weapons." Elena followed his gaze to the fighter jets still circling outside the scout ship. She understood his concern. They had every reason to be wary of humanity's military presence. Taking a deep breath, she met his eyes directly. "The weapons are for protection," she explained. "We don't know what's out here. We prepare for anything." Vorn didn't seem entirely convinced, but he didn't press further. Instead, he gestured to the glowing orb hovering nearby. "Peace," he said firmly. Elena nodded. "Peace." As the meeting drew to a close, both sides agreed to maintain communication. Elena promised to send more information about Earth and its people, while Cal offered to share insights about their own culture and technology. Before leaving, Elena handed over a small device containing a recorded message from Earth's leaders, a gesture of goodwill. Back on the battleship, Marcus leaned against the wall of the shuttle, shaking his head. "Do you think they'll really trust us?" Elena stared out the window at the alien ship growing smaller in the distance. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I think we've taken the first step. That's all we can do for now." As the shuttle docked with the battleship, Elena felt a mix of hope and uncertainty. This encounter had opened doors no one could have imagined, but it also raised countless questions. Were these aliens truly peaceful? Could humanity coexist with another intelligent species? Only time would tell. For now, though, one thing was certain. The universe was far bigger and far stranger than anyone had ever dreamed. Days passed after the first meeting, and both humans and aliens worked to deepen their understanding of each other. The alien scout ship remained near the human battleship, its crew sending regular transmissions filled with images, sounds, and data about their world. In return, the humans shared more about Earth, its history, its challenges, and its dreams for the future. It was slow progress, but every exchange brought them closer to building trust. Inside the battleship, Captain Elena Vega sat in her quarters, staring at a holographic projection of the alien planet. The swirling colors of its skies and the shimmering oceans fascinated her. She had spent hours studying the information Cal and his crew had sent, trying to piece together what kind of life existed there. But despite all the data, one thing troubled her. The aliens had mentioned nothing about their leaders or governments. Were they explorers acting alone, or did they represent something greater? Marcus knocked on her door, interrupting her thoughts. "Captain, we've received another message from the aliens," he said, stepping inside. "They want to show us something." Elena stood up quickly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Show us what?" "They didn't say. Just that it's important." She frowned but nodded. "Let's go see." When they arrived at the communication room, the alien crew was already waiting on screen. Kale appeared in the center, holding the glowing orb once again. His expression was serious, almost solemn. Behind him, Lyra and Vorn stood quietly, their eyes fixed on the camera. "We have gift," Kale began, his voice calm but deliberate. He gestured to the orb, which now pulsed brighter than before. "This help you understand." The orb floated forward, projected as a hologram into the human ship. As it hovered in front of Elena, it released a stream of light that formed shapes and symbols in the air. At first, they were abstract, swirling patterns and shifting colors, but soon they began to take form. Images of stars, planets, and galaxies appeared, accompanied by strange diagrams and equations. "It's a map," Marcus whispered, his eyes wide. "They're showing us how to navigate through space." Elena leaned closer, studying the holographic display. The map was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It detailed routes between star systems, marked with coordinates and warnings about dangerous zones. Some areas glowed red, indicating regions of instability or conflict. Others shimmered green, suggesting safe paths. "This could change everything," Elena murmured. "With this, we could explore farther than ever before." But as she looked closer, she noticed something unsettling. Among the safe routes were markings of massive structures, ships, stations, and weapons platforms. They weren't labeled clearly, but their designs hinted at war. Whoever controlled these territories wasn't just exploring. They were defending or conquering. Kale seemed to sense her unease. "Not all seek peace," he said softly. "Some fight, take, destroy." Elena met his gaze. "Are you warning us?" He nodded. "Yes. You travel far. Danger waits." For a moment, silence filled the room. The weight of Cal's words settled over everyone. Humanity had dreamed of meeting intelligent life, but now they faced a sobering reality. The universe was vast, beautiful, and perilous. Not every species would welcome them with open arms. "Thank you," Elena said finally. Her voice was steady, though her mind raced with questions. "We'll be careful." Kale inclined his head slightly. "We hope you find peace." As the transmission ended, Elena turned to Marcus. "We need to analyze this map carefully," she said. "Every detail matters." Marcus nodded. "Do you think they're telling us everything?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know one thing. This is just the start. There's so much more out there. And not all of it will be friendly." Over the next few days, the human crew pored over the alien map, decoding its secrets. Meanwhile, the alien scout ship prepared to leave, its mission complete. Before departing, Kale sent one final message. "Goodbye, friends. May your path be safe." As the scout ship disappeared into the stars, Elena stood on the bridge of the battleship, watching the empty space where it had been. A new chapter had begun, not just for humanity, but for the universe itself. And though the road ahead was uncertain, one truth was clear. No matter how far they traveled, they would never be alone again. The human battleship moved silently through space, guided by the alien map. The crew worked tirelessly, analyzing every detail of the data they had received. Captain Elena Vega spent most of her time in the command center, staring at the holographic projections that filled the air around her. The map was a treasure trove of information, but it also carried warnings, red zones marking dangerous areas and symbols hinting at powerful enemies. Elena's mind raced as she tried to piece everything together. Who were these hostile forces Cal had mentioned? Were they a threat to humanity? Or would they even notice a new species venturing into their territory? She didn't have answers, but one thing was certain. Caution was key. Lieutenant Marcus Kane approached her, holding a tablet with updated readings from the ship's sensors. "Captain, we're approaching one of the green zones," he said. "It looks safe, just like the map showed." Elena nodded. "Good. Let's take our time and scan the area thoroughly. I don't want any surprises." As the battleship entered the designated zone, the crew noticed something unusual, a faint signal coming from a nearby asteroid field. It wasn't strong enough to be a distress call, but it was consistent, almost rhythmic. Curiosity got the better of them. Could it be another alien vessel? Marcus asked, his brow furrowed. "Possibly," Elena replied. "Or it could be some kind of automated beacon. Either way, we should check it out." The battleship maneuvered closer to the asteroid field, its scanners sweeping the area for signs of activity. Hidden among the rocks, they discovered a small, damaged spacecraft. Its design was unfamiliar, different from both the alien scout ship and anything humans had ever built. The hull was scorched, and parts of it were crumbling, as if it had been drifting for years. "Life signs?" Elena asked. The sensor operator shook his head. "None detected. But there's power inside. It's weak, but still active." Elena made her decision quickly. "Prepare an away team. We're going in." Minutes later, Elena, Marcus, and 2 other crew members boarded a shuttle and headed toward the mysterious ship. As they docked and stepped inside, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor. The walls were covered in strange markings, symbols that glowed faintly, pulsing in time with the ship's failing systems. "This place feels alive," Marcus muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. In the central chamber, they discovered what appeared to be a control panel, surrounded by screens displaying fragmented images. Some showed star maps similar to the one Cal had given them, while others depicted violent scenes of battles and destruction. Then, in the corner of the room, they found something unexpected. A pod. It was small and cylindrical, its surface cracked and scarred. Inside lay a figure, motionless but intact. It wasn't human, nor did it resemble the aliens they had met before. Its skin was pale and translucent, its limbs long and delicate. A faint light pulsed within its chest, indicating it was still alive, but barely. "What do we do?" one of the crew members asked, his voice trembling. Elena hesitated, her mind racing. Whoever, or whatever, this being was, it clearly needed help. But bringing it aboard their ship was risky. What if it woke up hostile? What if it carried unknown diseases or technologies? "We take it with us," she said finally. "We can't leave it here to die." Back on the battleship, the crew worked to stabilize the creature. They placed it in a medical bay, hooking it up to machines that monitored its vital signs. Hours passed, and slowly the light in its chest grew stronger. Finally, its eyes fluttered open. The being looked around, confused and frightened. When it saw Elena standing nearby, it let out a soft sound, almost like a whimper. Using the universal translator, Elena spoke gently. "You're safe now. We won't hurt you." The creature blinked, then reached out a shaky hand. On the screen of the translator, words began to form. "Thank you." Elena exchanged a glance with Marcus. This was uncharted territory once again. Another species, another mystery. And yet, despite the risks, she felt a spark of hope. Every encounter brought them closer to understanding the universe and their place within it. As the battleship continued its journey, guided by the alien map, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of space, forces were gathering. Whether they were friends or foes remained to be seen. But one thing was clear: humanity's adventure was only beginning. The mysterious being recovered slowly under the care of the human crew. It was fragile, its body weak from years of drifting in the damaged ship. The medical team worked tirelessly, using Earth's technology alongside what little they could decipher from the alien vessel. Over time, the creature began to regain strength, and with it came moments of communication. Elena visited the medical bay often, sitting beside the pod where the alien rested. She spoke softly, using simple words and gestures to build trust. At first, the alien responded hesitantly, its voice faint and shaky when translated. But as days passed, it grew more comfortable, sharing fragments of its story. "My name is Naira," it said one day, its glowing eyes locking onto Elena's. "I come from far away." "Where is your home?" Elena asked gently. Naira paused, as if searching for the right words. "Gone. Destroyed." Its voice carried a deep sadness, and the lights on its chest dimmed slightly, as though mirroring its emotions. Elena felt a pang of sympathy. "What happened?" "War," Naira replied simply. "Others came. Took everything. I escaped. Alone." The room fell silent. Marcus, who stood nearby, shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't just a tale of survival, it was a warning. If such destruction had reached Naira's world, how long would it be before it spread elsewhere? And could humanity defend itself against forces like that? Elena leaned closer. "Do you know who attacked you?" Naira nodded slowly. "They call themselves the Valax. They seek power, dominate all." The name sent a chill through the room. Though no one aboard the battleship had heard of the Valax before, their reputation was clear. Conquerors, destroyers, a threat to any who crossed their path. "Are they near here?" Elena asked carefully. Naira hesitated, then pointed toward the holographic map displayed on a nearby screen. One of the red zones, the dangerous areas Cal had warned about, was marked prominently. "There," Naira said. "Their ships move fast, silent, deadly." Marcus stepped forward, his tone urgent. "Captain, we need to report this. If these Valax are as bad as Naira says, we can't ignore them." Elena nodded, her expression grim. "Agreed. But we also need to protect ourselves, and Naira. If they find out she's alive, they will kill her," Naira finished, its voice trembling. "Please, help me hide." Elena placed a reassuring hand on the edge of the pod. "You're safe with us. For now." Over the next few days, the crew prepared for the possibility of encountering the Valax. They studied the marked red zones on the map, identifying potential routes to avoid conflict. At the same time, they worked to repair Naira's ship, hoping to send it, and its pilot, far from danger once Naira was strong enough to leave. But the universe had other plans. One evening, as the battleship drifted through a quiet region of space, alarms blared suddenly throughout the vessel. Red lights flashed, and the crew scrambled to their stations. On the main screen, a fleet of ships appeared, dark, angular, and menacing. Their hulls bristled with weapons, and their movements were precise, almost mechanical. "The Valax," Naira whispered, its voice filled with dread. Elena clenched her fists, her mind racing. "Shields up, prepare for evasive maneuvers." The enemy ships didn't waste time. Without warning, they opened fire, sending blasts of energy hurtling toward the battleship. The impact rocked the vessel, throwing crew members off their feet. Sparks flew from consoles, and smoke filled the air. "We can't outrun them," Marcus shouted over the chaos. "They're too fast." Elena gripped the edge of her command chair, her jaw tight. "Then we fight. All hands to battle stations." As the crew sprang into action, Naira watched from the medical bay, its glowing form flickering with anxiety. Humanity was about to face its greatest test yet, a confrontation not just with an unknown enemy, but with the harsh realities of survival in a dangerous universe. Whatever happened next would shape the future, not just for Earth, but for every species caught in the crossfire. The battleship shuddered violently as another blast from the Valax fleet struck its shields. Alarms screamed through the corridors, and the crew worked frantically to keep the ship intact. Captain Elena Vega stood firm at her command station, her eyes locked on the main screen. The enemy ships loomed large, their dark forms cutting through the void like predators circling prey. "Shields are down to 40%, shouted one of the officers, his voice strained with urgency. Marcus Kane moved quickly between stations, relaying orders. "Divert all power to the rear cannons. We need to hold them off." Alina clenched her fists but kept her voice calm. "Target their lidship. If we can disable it, the others might hesitate." A tense silence fell over the bridge as the human gunners fired a concentrated volley of plasma blasts toward the largest Valax vessel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a brilliant explosion lit up the screen as the enemy ship's engines erupted in flames. The massive craft drifted out of formation, crippled but not destroyed. "They're regrouping," an officer called out. Alina's mind raced. The Valax were relentless, and their numbers gave them an overwhelming advantage. The humans couldn't win this fight, not without help. But where could they turn? They were alone in deep space, far from Earth or any allies. Suddenly, a soft voice broke through the chaos. Naira had entered the bridge, its frail form glowing faintly against the dim red lights. "I can help," it said, its tone hesitant yet determined. Alina turned to face the alien. "How?" Naira pointed to the damaged control panel near the navigation station. "My ship has weapon. Special weapon. Can stop them." Alina hesitated. Trusting Naira's technology was risky. It could malfunction or even harm the battleship. But they had no other choice. "Do it," she said finally. "But hurry." Naira nodded and rushed to the console, its long fingers moving swiftly over the unfamiliar controls. With surprising speed, it linked the alien ship systems to the battleship's weapons array. A strange energy began to build within the hull, vibrating through the metal and making the air hum. "What's happening?" Marcus asked, his voice tense. "The weapon is charging," Naira replied. "One shot only. Must aim carefully." On the screen, the Valax ships closed in, their cannons glowing ominously. Time seemed to slow as the crew held their breath, waiting for the weapon to activate. Finally, Naira raised a hand. "Now." The battleship unleashed a blinding beam of light, piercing through the darkness of space. It struck the center of the Valax formation, creating a shockwave that rippled outward. One by one, the enemy ships were engulfed in bursts of fiery explosions. Within moments, the entire fleet was gone, reduced to drifting debris. The bridge fell silent, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. Alina let out a shaky breath, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "Status report," she ordered. "Shields are critical, but holding," came the reply. "No casualties reported." Marcus approached Alina, his expression grim. "That was too close. What if they come back?" "They will," Naira said softly. "The Valax never stop. This was only a small part of their force." Alina looked at the alien, gratitude and concern mingling in her gaze. "Thank you, Naira. You saved us." Naira bowed its head slightly. "You saved me first. Now we are connected." As repairs began and the crew processed the battle, Alina returned to her quarters, her thoughts heavy. Humanity had taken its first step into a universe filled with wonders and dangers. The encounter with the peaceful aliens had been hopeful, but the Valax reminded her that not every species shared the same values. Survival would require more than courage. It would demand alliances, innovation, and sacrifice. Hours later, as the battleship resumed its course guided by the alien map, Alina stood on the observation deck, staring out at the endless stars. Somewhere out there, forces both kind and cruel awaited humanity. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew one thing for certain. The journey was just beginning, and it would change everything. The battleship drifted quietly through space, its crew still recovering from the encounter with the Valax. Repairs continued around the clock, and though the ship was battered, it remained functional. The victory had come at a cost. Many systems were strained, and supplies were dwindling. But despite the challenges, morale aboard the vessel began to rise. They had faced an overwhelming enemy and survived. For the first time in days, there was hope. Naira stayed close to Elena, observing the humans as they worked. It seemed fascinated by their resilience, watching how they repaired damaged panels, shared meals, and laughed together during brief moments of rest. One evening, as Elena sat alone in the observation deck, Naira approached her. Its glowing form cast soft light across the room. "You are strong," Naira said, its voice gentle. "Stronger than I thought." Elena smiled faintly. "We do what we have to. Survival isn't easy, not for anyone." Naira tilted its head, studying her closely. "You fight not just for yourselves, but for others. That is rare." Elena hesitated, unsure how to respond. She hadn't considered their actions in such terms. To her, protecting the crew and completing their mission was simply part of being human. But Naira's words made her think deeper. Was humanity ready to take on the responsibility of representing Earth in a universe full of unknowns? Before she could answer, Marcus entered the room, his expression serious. "Captain, we've picked up another signal." Elena stood immediately. "Where?" "It's coming from one of the green zones ahead. Faint, but consistent. Could be another ship, or maybe even survivors." Naira's eyes widened. "Survivors? From my people?" "It's possible," Marcus admitted. "But we won't know until we investigate." Elena nodded. "Set a course. Let's check it out." As the battleship moved closer to the source of the signal, tension built among the crew. Memories of the Valax attack lingered fresh in their minds, and no one wanted a repeat of that nightmare. When they arrived, however, what they found was unexpected. Floating in the vast emptiness of space was a derelict station, a massive structure shaped like a ring, its surface covered in strange symbols and glowing patterns. It looked ancient, its metal corroded and scarred by time. Yet parts of it still functioned, emitting faint pulses of energy that matched the signal they had detected. "This place feels alive," Marcus muttered as he studied the readings. Elena turned to Naira. "Do you recognize it?" Naira shook its head slowly. "No, but it is old. Older than my people." The decision was made to send an away team to explore the station. Elena led the group, accompanied by Marcus, Naira, and 2 other crew members. As they boarded the station, they found themselves in a labyrinth of corridors and chambers. The air was thick with dust, and the walls hummed faintly, as if responding to their presence. In the central chamber, they discovered something extraordinary, a massive sphere suspended in midair, glowing with an inner light. Strange images flickered across its surface, scenes of stars forming, civilizations rising and falling, and wars raging across galaxies. It was like a record of the universe's history. "What is this?" Elena whispered, reaching out cautiously. Naira stepped forward, its voice filled with awe. "Knowledge. This place holds answers." As they watched, the sphere pulsed brighter, and a voice echoed through the chamber, not in words, but in feelings. It spoke of unity, of cooperation between species, and of the dangers of division. The message was clear. The universe was vast, and survival depended on working together. Elena exchanged a glance with Marcus. "This changes everything," she said softly. Naira nodded. "If others find this, it could bring peace or war." The team returned to the battleship, carrying the knowledge they had uncovered. Though the station held secrets that could shape the future, it also posed risks. Who else knew about it? And what would they do if they found it? As the battleship resumed its journey, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that their discovery was both a gift and a burden. Humanity now stood at a crossroads, facing choices that would define their role in the cosmos. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: the universe was watching and waiting. The battleship moved steadily through space, its course guided by the glowing map and the weight of newfound knowledge. The crew was quieter now, their thoughts heavy with the implications of what they had discovered on the ancient station. Elena often found herself staring at the holographic sphere they had recorded, replaying the images and messages in her mind. It spoke of unity, of cooperation, and yet it also hinted at conflicts far greater than anything humanity had faced before. Naira spent most of its time in the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Its presence aboard the ship had become both a comfort and a reminder of how fragile life could be. One evening, as Elena joined Naira, the alien turned to her, its glowing form dimmer than usual. "This universe is dangerous," Naira said softly, "but also beautiful. You humans, you have much to learn." Elena nodded. "And we're trying. But sometimes I wonder if we're ready for all this." Naira tilted its head, studying her closely. "No one is ever ready, but readiness is not always needed. Courage is." Her words lingered in Elena's mind long after their conversation ended. Courage, that was something humanity had in abundance. But courage alone wouldn't be enough to navigate the challenges ahead. They needed allies, wisdom, and perhaps even luck. Days passed, and the battleship approached another green zone marked on the map. This time, there were no distress signals or signs of danger, just an uncharted planet orbiting a distant star. The crew decided to investigate, hoping to find resources to replenish their supplies. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, they were greeted by breathtaking sights. Lush forests stretched across the surface, dotted with shimmering lakes and towering mountains. Strange creatures roamed the landscape, their movements graceful and unfamiliar. "This place, it's alive," Marcus murmured as he studied the readings. "The air, the soil, it's all teeming with energy." Elena felt a spark of hope. If this planet has resources, it could give us a chance to regroup, maybe even establish a base. But as they landed and began exploring, they discovered something unexpected. Hidden beneath the dense foliage was a city, abandoned but remarkably well-preserved. Its architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, blending seamlessly with the natural environment. Buildings seemed to grow from the ground itself, their surfaces covered in vines and glowing crystals. In the center of the city stood a massive tree, its branches reaching high into the sky. At its base was a pedestal, and resting upon it was a small crystalline orb. When Elena touched it, a surge of warmth spread through her body, and visions flooded her mind. Images of countless species coming together, sharing knowledge and building a future free from war. "It's a message," she whispered, her voice trembling. "A call for peace." Nara stepped forward, its eyes wide. This world, it was a meeting place, a sanctuary. The realization hit Elena like a wave. This planet wasn't just a resource hub. It was a symbol of hope, a place where different species could gather and work toward understanding. But it also made them vulnerable. If others found this place, would they respect its purpose or exploit it? As the crew prepared to leave, Elena made a decision. "We'll mark this location on our map, but keep it secret, for now. This planet deserves protection." Back aboard the battleship, the crew reflected on their journey so far. They had faced enemies, formed unlikely friendships, and uncovered secrets that could change the course of history. Yet every step forward brought new questions and challenges. Elena stood on the bridge, staring at the stars ahead. Humanity's path was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But one thing was clear. They were no longer alone in the universe. Whatever lay beyond the horizon, they would face it together, with courage, curiosity, and the hope of finding a place among the stars. The battleship moved steadily through space, its course guided by the glowing map and the weight of newfound knowledge. The crew was quieter now, their thoughts heavy with the implications of what they had discovered on the ancient station. Elena often found herself staring at the holographic sphere they had recorded, replaying the images and messages in her mind. It spoke of unity, of cooperation, and yet it also hinted at conflicts far greater than anything humanity had faced before. Naira spent most of its time in the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Its presence aboard the ship had become both a comfort and a reminder of how fragile life could be. One evening, as Elena joined Naira, the alien turned to her, its glowing form dimmer than usual. "This universe is dangerous," Naira said softly, "but also beautiful. You humans, you have much to learn." Elena nodded. "And we're trying. But sometimes I wonder if we're ready for all this." Naira tilted its head, studying her closely. "No one is ever ready. But readiness is not always needed. Courage is." Her words lingered in Elena's mind long after their conversation ended. Courage, that was something humanity had in abundance. But courage alone wouldn't be enough to navigate the challenges ahead. They needed allies, wisdom, and perhaps even luck. Days passed, and the battleship approached another green zone marked on the map. This time, there were no distress signals or signs of danger, just an uncharted planet orbiting a distant star. The crew decided to investigate, hoping to find resources to replenish their supplies. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, they were greeted by breathtaking sights. Lush forests stretched across the surface, dotted with shimmering lakes and towering mountains. Strange creatures roamed the landscape, their movements graceful and unfamiliar. "This place, it's alive," Marcus murmured as he studied the readings. "The air, the soil, it's all teeming with energy." Elena felt a spark of hope. If this planet has resources, it could give us a chance to regroup, maybe even establish a base. But as they landed and began exploring, they discovered something unexpected. Hidden beneath the dense foliage was a city, abandoned but remarkably well preserved. Its architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, blending seamlessly with the natural environment. Buildings seemed to grow from the ground itself, their surfaces covered in vines and glowing crystals. In the center of the city stood a massive tree, its branches reaching high into the sky. At its base was a pedestal, and resting upon it was a small crystalline orb. When Elena touched it, a surge of warmth spread through her body, and visions flooded her mind. Images of countless species coming together, sharing knowledge and building a future free from war. "It's a message," she whispered, her voice trembling. "A call for peace." Nera stepped forward, its eyes wide. This world, it was a meeting place, a sanctuary. The realization hit Elena like a wave. This planet wasn't just a resource hub. It was a symbol of hope, a place where different species could gather and work toward understanding. But it also made them vulnerable. If others found this place, would they respect its purpose or exploit it? As the crew prepared to leave, Elena made a decision. "We'll mark this location on our map, but keep it secret. For now, this planet deserves protection." Back aboard the battleship, the crew reflected on their journey so far. They had faced enemies, formed unlikely friendships, and uncovered secrets that could change the course of history. Yet every step forward brought new questions and challenges. Elena stood on the bridge, staring at the stars ahead. Humanity's path was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But one thing was clear. They were no longer alone in the universe. Whatever lay beyond the horizon, they would face it together, with courage, curiosity, and the hope of finding a place among the stars.